Poland prepares to say goodbye to its first couple, but Europe's no-fly zone prevents world leaders from attending. Turkish Cypriots head to the polls in a vote expected to have major implications for the island's reunification. And wounded by our sins, Pope Benedict heads to Malta, but avoids any direct reference to Catholic Church sex abuse scandals. The ash spewing out of a volcano in Iceland is still continuing to wreak havoc, with millions of air passengers' plans for a fourth day. Almost all of Europe's main airports remain closed. More than 3/4 of flights were halted yesterday, with predictions the travel hell could drag on for days as the cloud lingers over the continent. It all means a miserable wait for those left stranded. So far, more than 20 countries have been severely disrupted by the plume, with some bans in place until Monday. And the signs don't look good. Some experts have warned the volcanic dust could become more concentrated on Tuesday and Wednesday before winds start dispersing it. The particles pose a serious abrasive risk to aircraft, stripping vital aerodynamic surfaces and paralysing engines. But Dutch airline KLM and Germany's Lufthansa yesterday carried out test flights, with both airlines saying the planes appeared undamaged. A small glimmer of hope may be that the worst disruption since the 2001 9/11 attacks could have an end in sight. But with scientists saying the eruption coming from the volcano Eyjafjallajökull could intensify and even last for months, there are fears more unprecedented travel chaos is on the horizon.
It's a similar situation at most airports across Europe, as the unprecedented closure of huge swathes of European airspace has resulted in millions of passengers being stranded, with no clear indication when normal services will resume. In Madrid, travellers remain stoical, despite the frustration and expense. We're on our way to Paris, but sadly our flight has been cancelled.
I want to fly back to London, but there's no flight left, so we have to stay for at least a week.
The knock-on effects of the flight cancellations mean people en route to areas seemingly unaffected by the volcanic ash are also grounded.
We'll be here with the International Red Cross, just waiting. My husband is here with me, and we'll just be waiting until they come help, until we're able to fly out. I'm going to try with Delta tomorrow and hope the airport opens, but, we'll see what happens. Comme ci, comme ça.
Help is on hand to ease the burden of those left high and dry.
At least people get better and better informed that no flights are going out, so less people are coming to the airport. But even this morning, some buses arrived with new people that expected to take a flight departing from Brussels, so they stayed with us also. We hope the number will diminish in the next few days.
As it's unknown when planes will take to the skies again, the authorities are advising people not to travel to airports and remain in contact with the carrier for the latest information.
US President Barack Obama and a host of other world leaders have said they will not attend the state funeral of Poland's first couple due to the volcanic ash cloud still hanging over Europe. President Kaczynski and his wife Maria will be buried at Krakow's Wawel Cathedral today, following last week's plane crash in heavy fog in western Russia. Thousands are expected to watch the ceremony on giant screens in the city centre, crowning a week of unprecedented national mourning. France's Nicolas Sarkozy, German Chancellor Angela Merkel and the UK's Prince Charles have all pulled out because of travel chaos that has shut nearly all of Europe's major airports. The family of Poland's presidential couple insisted the funeral go ahead, and Lech Kaczynski's brother Jaroslaw, daughter Marta and Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk were among mourners at a mass in Warsaw's St John's Cathedral on Saturday evening. Earlier, an estimated 100,000 people packed into the Polish capital's Pilsudski Square to pay their final respects to the 96 victims. During the ceremony, Prime Minister Tusk described the accident as the biggest tragedy in Poland's history since the Second World War. Thousands of protesters have rallied in Rome calling for the immediate release of 3 Italian medical workers accused of plotting to kill a provincial governor in Afghanistan. The doctor, nurse and logistics officer from the charity Emergency were arrested a week ago in the capital of Helmand province, Lashkargah. Supporters of the men insist they are completely innocent.
Well, this is just a gathering to show solidarity to Emergency, to the humanitarian work of Emergency in Afghanistan, to stress once again that Emergency is a humanitarian organization, that we take no part in the conflict. And we hope that this demonstration will convince many people to let us out of their games, either war games or political games.
Afghan authorities allege the 3 workers intended to murder Governor Gulab Mangal. Emergency has claimed British troops may have been behind the arrests after a cache of weapons and suicide vests were found in the hospital where the men were working. Afghan President Hamid Karzai has promised a fair and transparent investigation into the allegations. Italy has more than 3,000 troops in Afghanistan, and there's real concern the case could strain relations between Kabul and Rome. Earlier, dozens gathered outside the Helmand hospital to protest against the Italian charity. Northern Cypriots vote today in a presidential poll widely expected to have implications far beyond the territory's borders. The election pits hardline right-wing Prime Minister Dervish Eoglu against current President Mehmet Ali Talat. And barring a last-minute upset, Eoglu, a staunch believer in the North's independence from the rest of Cyprus, is set to coast home. He's accused his rival of failing in talks with Greek Cypriots aimed at resolving the Mediterranean island's long-standing territorial dispute. The current president, Mehmet Ali Talat, wants reunification with Greek Cypriots, whose government is recognised internationally. He says the barriers between the 2 communities are closer than ever to being sorted. Divided since 1974, only Turkey recognises the breakaway North. However, the vote's outcome may not only throw a spanner in the works of the fragile peace process, but also Ankara's ambitions of joining the EU.
Pope Benedict, on a 2-day pilgrimage to Malta, avoided referring to the child sex abuse scandals currently engulfing his papacy. In a brief message to journalists on board one of the few flights to leave Rome, the pontiff neither mentioned the new cases coming to light in Europe and the US, nor used the word abuse, but he did say, "I know Malta loves Christ and his church, that is his body, and knows that even if this body is wounded by our sins, God still loves this church, and his gospel is the true force that purifies and heals." In the capital Valletta, a group of 10 men who claim to have been abused by predator priests at an orphanage in the 1980s and 90s have requested a meeting with the Pope to close what they call a hurtful chapter in their lives.
It's traumatic, because when I kiss my wife, I still see him. I don't blame the Pope, I don't blame the Archbishop of Malta, I blame the priests that tried. These are criminals.
And this one went angry for a priest to buy clothes for boys and dress like that. In that time, the priest used to come and masturbate me in my room.
3 priests are currently facing charges in Malta over the alleged sex abuse.
The rest of the victims don't want to speak.
The government of Ecuador is pushing for more control of the lucrative oil sector. Leftist President Rafael Correa says he's run out of patience with foreign oil firms, claiming they've abused the country by making huge profits. He's proposing legislation to take over their operations unless the firms sign new contracts aimed at increasing state control. When the price of oil skyrockets, they're quiet, filling their pockets. Yes, that bothers me a lot. Every day, millions of dollars are going to these companies that should be going to the Ecuadorian state. And Correa is not alone. The push for state control over oil and minerals in Latin America has been spearheaded by Venezuela's Hugo Chavez. It's politically potent in Bolivia as well.